Alright, what's going on? Now, last night's video was completing the square, and as promised today I said I'd bring the noise. Everything's the same except for I'm going to add step 2 from the notes yesterday, and then that's going to change our result and change how we do things a little later in the problem. So let's start, and as I introduce this topic I'll review what we did yesterday. So we only have 2 examples in today's video. So I have 3x squared plus 12x plus 9 is equal to 0. Now, we said our first step needs to be variables on left and constants on right. Alright, so we're going to move my 9 over. So I got 3x squared plus 12x equals negative 9. Now, for step 2, this is the new step. Now we must get x squared alone. Now yesterday, all the problems we dealt with had a lead coefficient of positive 1, but now I have a 3. Now again, step 2 in itself really isn't that difficult, but it's how we react to it later on. So we have to take out a GCF only on the left side. Only on the left side. So I'm going to take out a 3. So on the inside, I'm left with x squared plus 4x. Again, I'm going to leave that blank spot, equals negative 9. Alright, then we have our infamous step 3, which is take your x term, alright, and divide by 2, and square it. Alright, so that's my 4. So I'm going to take my 4, divide by 2 gives me 2, and square it, which gives me 4. So I get 3 times the quantity x plus 4x plus 4. Alright, so you got to be very careful here. Now, I added 4 here. But what do you think I add to the other side? Now, it's 4 here, but whatever you add to one side, you have to add to the other side. You need to stay balanced. Okay, and if I were to multiply this back out, I would get 12 on this side. So we can't forget about our GCF. So 4 is what I added, times 3 would give me 12. So 12 is what I add to this side. Again, you have to stay really balanced, and that's the biggest mistake you all always make. You always automatically add 4 to both sides. You add 4 here, you add 4 here, and you get ahead of yourself. You can't forget, if you take out a GCF, you have to multiply that by that lead coefficient before you add it to the other side. All right, but now we treat the problem just as is. So I have 3 times the quantity x squared plus 4x plus 4, and that's equal to 3. All right, now step 4 was add to both sides. But we're going to add a little note here to be careful. All right, don't make that mistake. Now, from here, we factor and either solve or vertex form. And what I'll do is, as we're going through this, I'll show you where to stop for both. All right, so we factor what's inside our parentheses. Again, it's x plus 2, x plus 2. The process creates the same relationship. So I have 3x plus 2 squared equals 3. Now, if I wanted vertex form, all right, right here I would move my 3 over to get 3 times the quantity x plus 2 squared minus 3, and there's my graphing vertex form. If I wanted to solve, I have to get my x term alone, my squared term, so I divide both sides by 3, and I get x plus 2 squared equals 1, square root both sides, So x plus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 1 is just 1. then subtract 2 from both sides. So x equals -2 plus or minus 1. So my two solutions would be -2 plus 1, -2 minus 1. -1 and -3 would be your two solutions there. So in step 5, it could go either way depending on what the directions ask. Now, that wasn't that difficult. Alright, I started out with an easy one to kind of explain this process here. And I said I was going to bring the noise. So here it is. And you need to be comfortable working with these type of examples. So take detailed notes. Bear with me. It's our last example. Then you'll be done for the evening. Alright. So first thing you do, variables on left, constants on right. Now, is x squared alone? In this case, it's not, so you have to take out the GCF. And notice I have a odd number, which doesn't start this off pretty, but 7 divided by 2 is 7/2 x. Now we split the middle term and square it. So 7/2 divided by 2. Well, multiplying by numbers is the same as, dividing by numbers is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. So 7/2 divided by 2 is the same as 7/2 times 1/2, which gives me 7/4. And then we have to square it, which is 49/16. Now, you have a useful tool that'll help you do this. All right, if you're having trouble entering it, see me, and we'll be sure to review some calculator skills in class. All right, so that's the piece I'm going to add to both sides. So I got 2 times x squared plus 7/2 x plus 49/16 equals -6. Now, what are you adding to the other side? Well, we got 49/16, but we have a 2 out here. So we're multiplying, we're multiplying by 2. So 49/16 times 2 is 98/16, which then reduces to 49/8. So that's what you're adding over here. Now, pause the video and make sure you can get these numbers. Don't just take my word for it, because I'm not going to be there on your quiz or test to help you. Alright, so take the time, bust out your calculator, work through it, and make sure you can get those numbers and that you understand where they're coming from. Alright, so now this is the equation I'm working with. So I need to factor this one. Let me rewrite it so it's easier to explain. Plus 49/16 equals, when you do this math, I get 1/8. Alright, so -6 plus 49 divided by 8, math frac, you should get 1/8. Now, when you go to factor this, notice something. These are perfect squares. That's going to happen a lot. Alright, so think about it. I have a 2 out here. What times itself is going to give me 49/16? Well, 49 is 7 times 7. 16 is 4 times 4. So although we haven't factored a lot of fractions, we're going to have x plus 7/4, and the plus comes from, I can see my signs, x plus 7/4. Again, how I got that was I took the square root of these two perfect squares. And if you add 7/4 and 7/4, okay, you get 14/8, which simplifies to 7/2. So if you're confused, FOIL it out and make sure it matches. So I got 2 times the quantity x plus 7/4 squared equals 1/8. Now again, I understand you may feel a little overwhelmed, think this arithmetic is a lot, but once you get the hang of it, it's a process and it's simple. Alright, so at this point, if I wanted you to put in vertex form, you could do so. Subtract 1/8, done deal. If I wanted you to solve, alright, so in this case, we're going to solve. I'm dividing both sides by 2. Dividing by a number is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So 1/8 divided by 2, or 1/8 times 1 over 2, gives me 1/16. Again, use your calculator, check it, make sure you can do that arithmetic. Then I would square root both sides to get x plus 7/4 equals plus or minus the square root of 1 over the square root of 16. Well, the square root of 1 is 1, the square root of 16 is 4. So I have plus or minus 1/4. Subtract 7/4 from both sides. Negative 7/4 plus or minus 1/4. So negative 7/4 plus 1/4 gives me negative 6 over, negative 6 over 4. We have a common denominator, which is negative 3/2. And negative 7/4 minus 1 over 4 gives me negative 8 over 4, or negative 2. Alright, so that's the noise I was talking about bringing. And we're going to do more of these in class tomorrow, so be ready. Check you laters.